The Marginocephalia were the last group of dinosaurs to appear in the fossil record. The earliest forms appear in the late Jurassic as small, bipedal dinosaurs similar to ornithopods, but with more heavily built skulls. In the early Cretaceous, these forms diverged even more from ornithopods, more tightly fusing their skull bones together and developing frills on the backs of their heads. Even the tiny psittacosaurs, one of the most primitive groups of ceratopsians, were developing the beginnings of skull frills. They remained small enough that they could travel as facultative bipeds, walking on 2 legs when they wanted to cover ground more quickly, or on 4 when browsing around for something to nibble on. By the late Cretaceous, ceratopsians had grown much larger, and bipedalism was no longer an option. Other than variations in size and the features of the skull, most of these advanced ceratopsians looked superficially like the famous Triceratops. The frills and horns of ceratopsians likely served many of the same functions that the spikes and armor of thyreophorans served. The other group of marginocephalians retained more skeletal features of their smaller ancestors. The pachycephalosaurs did not attain the great size that their ceratopsian cousins did, but remained bipedal like primitive marginocephalians were. The skulls of pachycephalosaurs also did not grow nearly as large as ceratopsians did with their huge frills and long horns. Pachycephalosaurs still had sturdy skulls, some with thick domes and knobby spikes, but ceratopsians grew the largest skulls, proportional or otherwise, of any land animal ever. Without uniting these diverse forms through their ancestors, the relationship might seem unlikely between the bipedal pachycephalosaurs and the larger quadrupedal ceratopsians. There are still some skeletal traits that they both retain, though. The most obvious one is probably the width of their hips. Wider hips probably granted these dinosaurs enhanced maneuverability and made them harder to tip over. I imagine this would have been most helpful in intraspecies competition for social status within a herd or population. Both of these groups were probably herbivorous, though some pachycephalosaurs have somewhat heterodont dentition, suggesting they may have had a more diverse diet than plants alone. These presumed behaviors are all derived from anatomical evidence. From body fossils and anatomy, we assume served certain functions. Perhaps a more direct way of observing dinosaur behavior is through the study of trace fossils, which is called ichnology. Trackways are the first trace fossils that come to mind for most people, and there is a lot of behavior we can ascertain from trackways. The direction of travel is given away by the direction the toes face. The speed the animal was traveling at can be estimated by the measured stride length. If the animal was running or walking, that can be determined even from a single track by the way the weight was distributed on the appendage that made the track, or how that appendage entered and exited the track. Footprints are not the only traces left by dinosaurs, though. We have fossil skin impressions, where the texture of a dinosaur's hide has been transferred to the sediments that came into contact with it. There are dinosaur nests, which are full of data about the developmental and reproductive strategies employed by dinosaurs that use them, with some being buried nests, sort of like sea turtle or alligator nests, or others being earthen mounds, raised slightly above the ground surface. Sometimes predators left their marks in prey, and scavengers left their marks in the carcasses they cleaned up, in the form of tooth and claw marks. Stomach stones, or gastroliths, which are a way of chewing food after it has been swallowed, have been found from herbivorous dinosaurs that had crops or gizzards, but are usually found washed out of their carcasses as smooth, polished stones. In rare instances, these trace fossils have been found as intact masses where the soft anatomy that would house them is expected to have been. Coprolites, or fossil fecal matter, are loaded with data, though, like most traces, they can be difficult to trace back to the dinosaur that left them. Pathologies, which are evidence of disease or healed injuries, tell rich tales of the lives of dinosaurs too. Sometimes of predator-prey relationships, or intraspecies competition, or of other hardships that could have been faced by the dinosaurs unfortunate enough to live with these healed injuries.